Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Maverick Mindset Radio Show. I am Adam Williams.
And I'm Ashley Muckenhop.
And this is the radio show for the dreamers and doers. It's for those who are willing to step into the arena.
Some call us the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers.
We don't accept the status quo. We leave the world better than we find it.
We approach each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. We maintain a rational optimism about the future.
This is the Maverick Mindset Radio Show, brought to you by me, Adam Williams. New year, new me.
You're gonna say that.
First show of the year. New year, new me. Get ready, everybody.
Here we go.
I hate that phrase.
I know you do. I can't believe you said it.
I had to say it because I know I'm not the only one saying it.
Everybody says it. January 1st, everybody's
Not my
like,
people.
yay.
Nope. It's the same you.
Yeah.
Hopefully with improvements in the works. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. New year, new me. New year, same me. I'm about to blow the show up. Ready? Today,
Yes.
I'm bringing a segment back.
Yeah.
I'm not even following the run of show.
Okay.
I am so fired up this morning.
I was excited.
This is the problem with we were off for what, 2-3 weeks?
Yeah,
Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen.
we're ready.
This is going to be a good one. You're going to come back and want to listen to this show.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're out there listening live on our Facebook feed, Maverick Mindset Radio Show, share the show right now, and I guarantee that the people who watch it, because you shared it, will thank you. Do something nice for people. All right, I'm bringing an old segment back.
Do it.
We've done this once, and it was one of our early shows. Today's sign of the downfall of society.
Get ready, people.
The first time we did it was when some random kind stranger at Barnes & Noble tried to buy my daughter a stuffed animal.
Yeah. The giraffe.
Seemingly a nice gesture, but she's ruining my children. You ready for today's?
Yeah, I want to know. I didn't know this was happening.
No, because I thought about it on the way over here.
Okay.
Today's sign of the downfall of society. The Rocky movies.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? What?
Yeah.
Hi.
What is the first thing you think of when you think of the Rocky movie?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I guarantee it's not drinking the eggs.
All right.
Because that's disgusting.
You
And
may,
he really
you know what?
did that. He really had to do it.
I'm glad that you came up with that. All right. Here's where the Rocky movie gets it wrong.
Okay.
The montage. And what's he doing? He's jogging in his
Yes.
sweatpants, and he's punching the meat, and he's working the speed bag, and he runs up the stairs, and it's this big celebration. Wrong, 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 wrong. You want to know what that really looks like? To fighters, to business owners, to entrepreneurs? You wake up in the morning and you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the reality,
Yeah.
right? Drinking the eggs. I get that.
Yeah.
There is, if you go on YouTube and you look up Rocky montage, they put all of them from all the movies in one, like,
Oh,
stream.
okay.
It's cool. It'll
I'll have
fire
to
you
see
up.
it, yeah.
It'll fire you up. It'll get you motivated, right?
Yeah.
You get the goosebumps going. I think it's Rocky 2. He like jumps off the stoop of his porch. He's got the new Trans Am that he bought there. He's jogging through the town. A train goes by. Somebody says, "Go get him, Rock." And by the end of that montage, like
Yeah.
the whole city's running behind him and he goes up the steps. That's not how it works. That's not reality. Reality is you try to open your door and the lock is frozen, and you jump off the stoop and get bit by a dog. Mm-hmm. There's in Rocky 1 during the montage, he is getting like punched in the stomach, right?
Yes.
So he tenses up and they punch him in the stomach. He tenses up and gets him punched in the stomach. That's great practice, but the reality is you don't see that punch coming and it just hits
Yeah.
you. That is the reality,
The gut punch.
right? It doesn't make a particularly good movie. I mean, they get to the fight scene and he certainly gets beat up pretty well.
Yeah.
But that, the drudgery, the monotony, the misery, the suffering, the difficulty, the persistence that's required,
Yeah.
that
The pain.
is reality.
Yeah.
So when you watch those montages, I hope everybody does. I hope everybody
I'm
goes
going
and
to,
looks
'cause
up.
I
It
wanna
was good.
see
It got
the-
me.
yeah.
It got me
Yeah.
fired up for the show. So I got, like when you get that, like it's kind of this. You get this feeling, and it's a little emotional. It gets you fired up.
Yes.
Running a business is the exact opposite of that most days.
Okay.
That feeling of like excitement and a little bit of nervous energy and motivation and passion. Flip that 180 degrees. That is most days of owning a business. And this is what most people don't see. This is why most people quit. This is why most people
you
give
go.
up. This is why their businesses fail, is because Rocky ruined them.
Ruined it. Do you think they get it for a spurt of it, right? A little bit. They get that, and then quickly
Totally.
it goes away.
Totally. So
Like you watch the montage and you're like, yes. And by the end of the day, you're like, nope.
yeah, exactly. Oh, I have to crack this egg, right?
Yeah, I gotta-
I'm not gonna do that.
Nope.
So there's another. I got to look this up. There's another movie. It's a documentary about the Beatles called Get Back,
Oh.
and I don't remember how. It's several episodes. I don't know, 3 episodes. Each one is hours. I love the Beatles.
Okay.
I love the Beatles. That documentary is so terribly boring.
I was going to say, I don't know if I
That-
could sit through that. I don't.
You couldn't.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
But that is what it took to become the Beatles. So
Okay.
it's actually pretty interesting because it is a little bit of insight into life in the 60s
Yeah.
or whenever they recorded that. So like they would get to the studio whenever.
Yep.
And like their breakfast would be a piece of white bread with like toast
Yeah.
with butter and a cup of coffee. And that would get them through to lunch. That wouldn't get me 45 minutes, right?
No.
That has something to do with the nutritional content of our food nowadays. But it's terribly boring.
Yeah.
Because they sit there and play the same song over and over and over, and then they tweak something and they play it again, and then
Yep.
they tweak something and they play it again, and they do 27 recordings of the first verse of a song, and then they go back and say, you know what, recording 14 was the best one.
Oh, wow.
It is tedious.
Yeah.
It is difficult. One of my favorite Beatles songs is Helter Skelter. It's kind of a rock and roll song. Like it is like heavy metal
For the
Beatles. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a heavy song for the Beatles. And the version that became famous, the recorded version of that famous, at the end of the song, Ringo screams, "I got blisters on my fingers," because he
Yes.
had to play that
Yeah.
song so many times with his drumsticks.
Yep.
That is the reality. That's actually where this whole thought
That's what we
started. Is
don't-
I told you on our last show, I'm gonna row 1,000,000 meters on the rower.
Yeah.
I got blisters on my fingers.
Yeah.
Like I'm only 7 days into the year.
Yeah.
Although I did in December, it turns out I did maintain, like I did the 83,000 that it would require to.
You want to
get
hit
there.
1,000 by the get to the
million.
point where or 1,000,000.
a million.
Million.
A million meters.
Okay.
It works out to only about 15 minutes a day on the rower. That's
not bad.
But if you miss a day, you got to do half an
Yeah.
hour. If you miss 2 days, you got to do 45 minutes.
Yep.
So, yeah. So that's.
I just want you to know there was a time that I was working out this one place and you had to row, and the only thing that got me through the 800-meter rowing was the Rocky song. By the way, I had to get in a zone for that.
Yeah.
It was the Rocky song.
All right. So that is kind of the theme of today's show. What is our official title? Did you give me an official title?
Yeah,
here? What
it's
is it?
Keeping Momentum, Sustaining Success in Business.
That just sounds so lovely and positive.
Yeah, but it's not.
No, it's really surviving the drudgery and misery
Yeah.
that is required to become successful.
Yeah.
You want to be Rocky, you got to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
You want to be Ringo Starr, you're going to have blisters on your fingers. Oh man, that's another great movie, Whiplash. Have you ever seen
I don't know.
Whiplash?
I've seen that.
Oh,
Who's in that?
man.
Is that an older one?
It's who's the guy?
Miles.
Miles something. He was just in. I think that Whiplash was probably his like breakout onto the scene, and then it's the bald guy from the insurance
JK.
commercials. Yeah. Whiplash, killer. All right, everybody go out and watch Whiplash.
Okay.
It's I can't ruin any of it.
Is it
but
newer
it's,
or older? At least so I know what I'm getting
in the last
into.
10 years, 5 or 10
Okay,
years. Yeah. So Miles gets into this really elite music school and he makes the jazz band, which is a big deal. And
Okay.
the guy who runs that band is an absolute dictator mercenary. And there's I don't want to ruin it. But
Yeah.
anyway, that is if you want to learn what it takes to be not even the best, anywhere near the best, in that top echelon, in that top 5% or 1%, Whiplash is a much more realistic picture of that. Rocky, not so much. So that's what we're talking about today, because new year, new me, and we got our resolutions and we got our goals, and call me 2 months from now and you're going to be off pace with all of it.
Yeah.
And if you feel personally attacked by that, it's because I'm personally attacking you. Because I know you. I know you.
Yep.
I was you. Sometimes I is you. Like I had 7 big goals last year. I think I only hit 4 of them. Some of them I gave up. Some of them are still in process. And then other ones I completed, and it was really great. So
Because we get this excitement. Well, I don't know what it is about the new, right? It's like all of a sudden we can wash away the year that just had, and it's this brand new day on the 1st to just change our lives.
yeah, it's I mean it's completely arbitrary.
Yeah.
But if you can actually, like, yeah, it's just you turn the page of the calendar, whatever, the ball drops and the champagne pops, and
Yeah.
if that's what you need to turn over a new page,
Yeah.
great. But you know what? If we're, what is today? January 8th. We're a week in, and if you didn't do it, start tomorrow. Start today. Start next Tuesday. But do it, right? Pick your January 1st. You and I are on what, day 7 of 75 hard?
This is day 8.
This is day 8. Yeah. So I got a message yesterday from somebody who said he was on day 5. So he started whatever, January 3rd, and it's like, that's cool, right?
Yeah.
Go for it. So that's what we're talking about today, is keeping that momentum. I think that a successful business owner, well, a business owner who has a successful business, it really comes down to 2 things: vision and momentum.
Yeah.
So you cast that vision, you set that goal, and you build as much momentum as you possibly can. All right, can I tell you another funny story?
Yes.
You know this one.
Okay.
Some of my Facebook friends do, but our listeners do not. All right, so I got the Range Rover towards the end of last year, right? Used Range Rover, only came with 1 key. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do nothing else from this show, go get a spare key for your car. All right, so I took it to the cabin for my birthday, right? No, I didn't take it to the cabin. I thought about driving it, and then I decided to take my truck instead because I needed the space. Got back from that trip, could not find the keys.
Yep.
2 weeks went by. It just sat in my garage, right? I finally just said, I'm sick of it. I don't like driving my truck on a daily basis. Like,
You said, though, I know they're somewhere.
Well, of course they are. They have to be somewhere. I even messaged the Airbnb host, like, hey, when you clean, did you find a set of Range Rover keys? No, 2 weeks go by. So I finally say, that's it. I've had enough, right?
Yeah.
And we all...
What are you going to tolerate?
That moment, right? When the pants don't button anymore,
Yeah.
you finally say, I've had enough. And I don't know what the moment was for me. I think I was driving somewhere in my truck, and I said, I can't do... Every pothole I hit, I need dental work. So I call a friend who owns a towing company. I'm like, hey, man, can you flatbed my truck to the Range Rover dealership in Cleveland? Yep. So what I had to do was that night, it was a Thursday night, he was going to take it on Friday. So Thursday night, I went and I bought some dollies. And I jacked up the Range Rover and I set the dollies under each of the tires and put it back down, right? So it's on its own set of like casters. Because I had to move the Range Rover from the left stall of my garage to the middle stall. The tow truck wouldn't have been able to get into the left stall. Our driveway's wonky. Just would have been a weird angle. So I figured I'd do this guy a favor. I'm going to put it on dollies. I'm going to slide it over to the middle stall. So I'm out there. It's cold. This garage is not heated. I got like the metal, right, of the jack and the dollies, and I get it lifted up, and then I'm there, it's on the left-hand stall, and I got to push it away. So I'm like against the wall, trying to basically bench press my car sideways, and I can't get it going. So I called Jackie and Royce, and I said, hey, come out and help me, right? So all 3 of us, we got bumper, middle door, rear bumper, and we push, and it moved.
Nice.
And then it started going the wrong direction, and we kind of sort of grazed to the, whatever. And then we had to stop, and then we had to push really hard again, and eventually we got the Range Rover into the middle stall of the garage. And Jackie was so pumped. She's like, we just pushed a car sideways. I'm like frustrated because all I'm thinking is these keys ain't going to be cheap. The tow ain't going to be cheap. And
I had to push a car.
and Friday was the same day I was going to pick up the airplane from the most recent round of repairs. So it's like, I'm angry. I'm seeing these dollars go out my pocket, right? She's so pumped. But the reality was, once the 3 of us pushed the car, I could actually move it around on my own.
Yeah.
Once we had that momentum, once we got that initial push, I could actually direct it, right? And I think that's one of the lessons that I want to talk about today. That is the lesson that I want to talk about today, are what are some things that you can do to get that momentum?
Yeah.
Like if you're stuck on the thing, or if you get stuck, or if you get slowed down, what are some things that you can do to keep momentum so that
and not quit?
So that you're not another New Year's resolution tub of lard.
That's not what it originally was, people. Just so you know.
That was I put that in the show notes preparing for this show, right? And I say that somewhat in jest, but frankly, one of the ways that you can get and keep momentum is when you're setting that goal to really stop and think about what the outcome is going to feel like. Literally say,
Yeah.
like, if I accomplish X, if I row 1,000,000 meters this year, how will that make me feel? Right? It's not just about the number. I mean, the number is great, but the reality is it's that my clothes are going to fit better, and I'm going to look better, and I'm going to feel healthier, and I'm going to be happier. And actually, I know that like I will be more successful at work because, you know, I who's saying this right now? Somebody's saying, Dan Martell, who wrote Buy Back Your Time. His big thing on the internet right now is like exhaust the body, tame the mind, right? So I know that I will see success in so many areas of my life, and I will feel so much better and so much more accomplished if I get this thing done.
Let me ask, because I think people...
Well, I didn't finish explaining that.
Oh, sorry. Keep going. I thought of a question.
I had so much momentum.
Sorry.
And you just
Stop,
see,
but that's what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rocky getting punched in the face.
This is what happens.
All right, get back up. Okay. So that's part one. I think people set a goal of like, oh, I want to have $1 million business. And that sounds really great, but they don't actually know what that means and what the outcome looks like and how it's going to make them feel. So that's step one. Step two is answer for yourself. Maybe like if you write your goals and you write your project plans, I suggest putting these notes on there. How will you feel if you don't accomplish the goal?
Oh.
And you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to be disappointed, and you're going to feel stuck, and all of these other things.
Recognizing those feelings.
That's it. So getting in touch with those feelings early on can really help you with a lot of that. It can help you maintain that momentum. All right. So what's your question?
So when people hear the word momentum, we think automatically your brain goes speed. I envision, I see a hill with a rock going down, or a hill like it's snowy, right? The snowball going down the hill. Immediate speed, immediate like takeoff.
Yeah.
But isn't it, that's not really how starting momentum is. It's like you said with the car. First, it's hard to get started. You're pushing, it's a struggle. It's not easy to get to the point of building up that momentum. I think is that where people miss it and where they quit? Like you get in your head, like, I'm just going to start, I'm going to go, everything's going to be great. But in reality, to get to that point, you got to do some work first.
So I had to Google this and I didn't find my answer quickly enough. So I'm going to make this up.
Okay.
But it's going to be close enough to the truth that you're going to believe me. Rockets burn something like 80% of their fuel in the first 60 seconds of taking off.
That's a lot.
Yeah. They burn most of their fuel just getting off the ground. And then what happens when they're off the ground?
Take off.
They're flying like a rocket. Right? So that's it. That initial surge, that initial push with a rocket, it consumes so much more fuel just getting off the ground, just getting out of the atmosphere, just getting out into space, right, or wherever it's going. I have a lot of commentary on unnecessary wars, but I'll leave that for another show. So they're probably heading towards a hospital or a nursery. Yeah. All right, sorry. So rockets burn most of their fuel when they're initially taking off, but and so that's part one of this story of how the analogy works to business. It takes a lot of momentum just to get going. It takes a lot of work. Going. Yeah. Now, my other favorite rocket story.
God, I had so many.
is that like you set a target.
Yeah.
So this happened. There was a lunar landing a few months ago, right? So some private company launched a rocket space shuttle thing, and they landed it on the moon. Pretty cool. Rockets. And they landed it like where they wanted to, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the really interesting thing. Or if we're back to the rocket missile analogy, like you can pinpoint where you want that thing to hit, right? So you can launch it from wherever and it lands wherever with like perfect accuracy. Mm-hmm. But 99% of the time on that path, the rocket is off course. It is constantly adjusting. It is constantly tweaking. It is constantly seeing where am I and where's the wind and what other factors are out there and redirecting its course. And I think a lot of people beat themselves up for that because it's like, well, I launched and I'm off course.
Yeah.
I'm such an idiot. I'm such a failure.
Yeah.
No. That's where the little adjustments come in. So part one is it takes a lot more energy just to get it going. Part two is it's constant adjustment, it's constant feedback, it's constant tweaking in order to hit the target. And part 3 and 4 is sometimes the target moves.
Yeah.
Or sometimes that rocket just fizzles out and you need to launch another one. Yeah. Right. All right. Yeah. So there the analogy completely fell apart. But you understand what I'm saying. But like we're doing a webinar in 3 weeks, right? On the 29th, about tax planning for 2025.
Right.
And it's going to be a boatload of work to launch that webinar.
Yeah.
Because we have to prepare it and get the slides together and do the landing page and the thank you page and the follow-up emails and the social media posts and the registration emails and the reminder emails.
A lot goes behind that.
Yeah.
It's not just
Plus, by the way, after the webinar, when we say, hey, if you want more help with this, book a call with us.
Yeah.
Well, then we have to have a system in place to book those calls and handle those calls and script them and do the follow-up. And like, that's a lot of work.
Yep.
Now, fortunately, we've got momentum and,
Yes.
and a lot of this stuff is already in place, but we may go and do all this and maybe nobody registers. Or maybe nobody shows up. Or maybe nobody actually listens while I'm talking.
Yeah.
Or nobody actually follows through and books the consult. So we did all this stuff to give away some really great free advice and nobody hired us after that.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that and go, well, I'm never doing a webinar again.
Yeah.
Or they hire that first employee and they get burned, because you will get burned by your first employee, and they say, fine, I'm just going to keep my business small.
Yep.
Because the outcome of a business with a team that pushes you, you didn't understand how you were going to feel when you actually had that thing.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to just give up. So again, the show is about momentum. It's about creating that momentum. We might as well do the check-in now. All right. We're streaming live on Facebook, Maverick Mindset Radio. All our episodes are up on Spotify. We're up on YouTube.
Yeah.
MaverickMindsetRadio.com. I just made some tweaks to that I didn't show you, but we got the Maverick merch on there. Get your new notebook for the new year. Or your coffee mug, use code Maverick10 for 10% off. All right, so we're talking about momentum. We're talking
I feel
about...
like this show's too fast to cover all of the things that we want.
You know what it was? I listened to the Rocky montage on the drive-in this morning,
Yeah.
and I am fired up. All right, so let's talk about that burning 80% of the fuel on takeoff.
Yeah.
How can you do that in your life and in your business? Like, what are some examples of how you can do that? Well, Adam, I'm glad you asked. Sorry, I was talking to you last night, and I'm like, you're gonna have to drive this show.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have to keep me focused and ask me the questions.
We're gonna keep going.
So that's a great question, Adam.
Yes, I think that was my line.
All right, so one thing that I really like is going streaking.
It's not what you think, people.
So fitness, right?
Yes.
On Peloton, they actually did a challenge, a 30-day streak to end the year, right?
Okay.
So if you went December 1st to December 31st, you got a 30-day streak of working out.
Nice.
I did that. That was great. Felt good, right? And I finished 75 hard halfway through that, so I could have just sat around and done nothing.
Yep.
But no, I kept the streak going. Felt great. And then what do they do January 1st? Let's
Start
do
anew.
a 100-day streak. So like that's one really good way to build momentum. Like if you do, and you and I do this, I do it more, but through 75 hard,
Yeah.
like it's not about, I told you last year, 365 days in the year, I was on some program of 75 hard for 179 of those days.
Yeah.
So a little under half the year. I
Yeah.
was 3 days short of half the year, right? Well, it's not like the other half of the year I'm sitting around doing nothing. No, I've built the habits.
Yes.
And I've created that momentum and I keep it going. And you follow.
Feels off to you than if you're not.
It totally
doing
does,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
creates that habit. So a 100-day workout streak to begin the year, what do you think that's going to mean for you at day 101 or 102? You're probably going to keep that going.
Yep.
So I really like the idea of creating, of going streaking. So I've done this, like if I'm getting a lot of calls and inquiries recently about how to write a book, because apparently I'm an expert at that. Or people, I don't know, whatever. So there's a couple different ways that you can go about writing a book, but I've found that if I get stuck with content creation, I go streaking.
Yeah.
So I say, all right, every day for 30 days, I'm going to write a minimum of 300 words. I do this a couple times a year. And I create a Google document or a Word document, and it is titled 300 words a day. And every day I sit down and I don't
just
stop
write.
typing until I hit at least 300 words. And some days it's flowing, right?
Right.
I can crank out 1,000 words and it's like, all right, that was pretty great. Shut
Yep.
it down. Other days I'm at like 297 and I got to come up with, but after 30 days of creating content or writing or whatever it is, if you're writing a book, just sit down every single day and do something.
Yeah.
You create a lot of momentum. You get rid of that block. It's sort of oh man, there's another great momentum analogy. I can't remember. I know I shared this in the office, but like a train, right? If there's a pebble on a train track and the train is stopped, it will stop the train from moving. But if that train is cruising along at 40 miles an hour, that pebble doesn't have a chance.
Go. Right.
So that this is that streak is one way of removing that pebble from the tracks.
I think once you can get going, that initial beginning, like when we talk about 75 hard, it's in these first few days, it's the hardest, especially if you're just starting. You want to, it's all the things that are hard about 75 hard happen, I think, in the first couple weeks of that. They really do. The constant, you're drinking a lot of water. It's the bane of my existence right now. The workouts, all of that. The quitting points, the times that it's the hardest, I believe is right at the beginning. Once you get into it and you're a couple weeks into it, right, and you have that momentum of doing it and it's a habit, it becomes a lot easier to finish it unless you forget to read. But yep. I think that's the same with, same thing in business, same thing in everything. It's that once that your quitting points, your stopping points, or when things are probably going to go wrong or you have to pivot, it's right at the beginning where it happens most. And that's where people are like, no, this isn't right. It's like a sign. Like the roadblock is like a sign to stop instead of a sign to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. It's really interesting too. And I didn't understand this until I saw it. But I last year was the first year I did the entire Live Hard program. So I've talked about this, phase 3, right?
Yes.
Phase 3, where you're doing, like, you do the normal 75 hard, but it adds on all of this other stuff that you have. The goal is if you must finish on the day that you started 75 hard a year ago, right? Yeah. So I had to finish on December 16th, which means I had to start on November 16th. And I had to talk to a stranger. I had to do a random act of kindness. Yeah. I was doing the cold showers. Like, it is a full-time job. So I finish it, felt great, told myself I'll probably never do it again, but of course I will. Took 2 weeks off, and then I go back to start 75 hard, and I'm like, this is it?
Yeah.
Like, this is easy.
Yeah.
This is easy because I have so much momentum from spending half of my year on some version of that program that I get back to, I look at 75 days of these 5 simple tasks, and it's like, oh, this is easy. This is gonna be no problem. And I think that it happens in business too, right? You get accustomed to. It's kind of our lesson on goals and standards. You get accustomed to this new standard. My new standard is this healthier way of living. Our new standard in our business is we're going to generate a certain amount of revenue per month that 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago didn't even seem possible.
Right.
And now it's like we're failing if we're doing anything less than that. Right. We talked about David Nagel a lot on this show, and he taught us the concept of making your annual income your monthly income. Mm-hmm. And I've done that a handful of times in my life and maintained it. And that's where the momentum comes from, is you learn, you gain experience, and you figure out how to do things, but also, like, you get to carry a lot of that knowledge forward with you.
Yeah.
The webinar is a good example. Launching a webinar is so much easier now than it was even a year ago. But especially 4 or 5 years ago when we started marketing through that type of thing. So that's good stuff. All right. The other thing, I was talking about getting on a streak, right? Yep. So I think that is one good way to start building some momentum. The other thing that I think stops a lot of people is they can't see the entire path, right? Or they say, I can't get started until I have all of this mapped out. And that is a great strategy to not get anywhere in life, to say I've got to have this completely planned out perfectly in every step of the process. But the reality is, until you get 10 steps in, you don't know what the next 10 steps are going to look like.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important. I think at a minimum, map out the first 3 steps, right? Like, what are the first 3 things I have to accomplish?
The most important things.
That's it.
To at least get moving.
Get an early win. I mean, that's momentum, right? But it's not sitting, oh man, this was another Facebook post that got a lot of traction recently. It's not sitting and perfecting your logo and your website and setting up your email accounts and making sure that you have the automated scheduling software. It's none of that.
Yeah.
If you're launching a business, you know what it is? Getting your first customer.
Yeah.
Have someone pay you for the thing that you're doing. Yeah. That is such an early win that, if you go and create your social media page, a bunch of people in your family are probably going to go hit that like button and they're going to share it, but it doesn't really mean anything. And deep down inside, it doesn't really mean anything. What you really need is that first customer who's willing to pay you for the thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. That is how you get early wins. And that can help maintain a lot of momentum. And, cash always helps. There's a car company that's doing this right now, Scout. So they're a historical car company. They used to make these really cool trucks. They sort of look like Broncos. and they are taking pre-orders on vehicles right now.
Okay.
I'm getting ads on my social media. Of course. Taking pre-orders, really cool looking trucks. So you can put a deposit down on one of these now.
Okay.
They will deliver it to you in 2027.
Wow.
I think that's a lot better
But
than...
they have their customer. In the meantime, they can work on everything
That's
else.
it. And they'll get some customers and they'll get some people that support them. And I'm sure I imagine that they've got some pretty solid funding behind them as well, because you can't start a car company without that. But yeah, customers, that's a great move. That's a great move.
So you're saying instead of trying to predict how everything is going to go and plan out exactly how you think everything needs to be a year down the road, you need to be focusing more on the present and the now. And what do I need just right now?
You know who did this really well? My former trainer. So I'll shout him out. Erie Fitness Academy, right? So they were running these ads where you could come out and get a free workout, and they'd weigh you, and right. So you get on the scale, and they're like, "Oh, guess what? You're fat. You need to work out more and eat better." Oh, thank you.
Shocker.
And then they take you back and they do a free workout. And I remember the first workout that I did. I was ready to puke. I couldn't walk for 3 days. So we finish it, and DJ goes, "That was half of a normal workout. Like, that was 30 minutes. And our normal workouts are an hour, right?" I'm committed at that point, though.
Yeah.
Because I just got an early win. I just worked out. I just worked out for 30 minutes, and yeah, I feel like crap, but I also feel great.
Yeah.
Like that was the hardest workout I've ever done till that point in my life. So I'm committed at that point. So that is a great early win. That's a great sales tactic and client retention tactic, but it's also a great tactic for momentum in your life of how can you stack early wins, significant, meaningful wins, not your logo, but your first customer, right? Your first networking relationship, like whatever it is. So I that is a huge step towards getting some momentum. All right. Another thing that I think is really important, and this actually goes back to the fitness thing, because I feel like so many of these lessons do, to keep momentum. I think knowing your numbers is really important. This is a recurring theme on this show. Like, if your goal is to lose weight, how often do you think you should be stepping on the scale? Probably every day, right? Maybe you miss a day, or maybe you're traveling, or whatever. But you should be stepping on the scale every single day, not once a month, right?
Right.
In your business, if your goal is generating more leads, how often should you be tracking the leads that you generate? Well, probably every day, right?
Yep.
And then you'll see either that you've built up a lot of momentum, or you'll see that it's not working and you got to adjust course.
To make a change.
So we actually just had a big problem with this in our business, that we in the fourth quarter of the year, our one of our key employees who does a lot of our number tracking was out on leave. So it wasn't until yesterday that she and I sat down and went through the numbers, and I told you this, from quarter 3 to quarter 4, the business tripled. Yeah. Like, our average monthly revenue in Q3 was 1/3 of what it was in Q4. and we knew it was going well, right?
Yes,
and we have our we're tracking our revenue and stuff like that, but to actually not to sit and analyze it at that level and go, whoa.
Yeah.
And now it's like, Jackie's been working her tail off 7 days a week building this thing.
Yep.
And then we can look at that and go, oh, well, I mean, it's working.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm ready to get back to this. And she's great at casting that vision and having that goal. So, okay, we actually have more momentum than we thought. In building towards that. And I think this is where a lot of organizations get it wrong too, is there was a business owner in Erie years ago. He's deceased now, but they were a sales driven organization, right? You and I have talked about this. Yep. We are marketing driven. We like the leads to come to us, and then we sell them. But a sales driven organization, the ones where they're cold calling, they're knocking on doors, they're pounding the pavement, whatever. Like, every single day, they would do a sales meeting where they'd bring in all their sales people into the conference room, and they'd have this rah fire you up, get motivated meeting.
Yeah.
And they would kick the door down and run out and go pound the pavement and make the phone calls and do the cold calls and do the outreach and stuff like that. And then by 4:30 in the afternoon, you know where they were? Happy hour.
Yeah.
Commiserating because it was a bad day, right?
Yeah.
And then they got to wake up again tomorrow and have another rah, pump you up, fire you up, get going, kick the door down sales meeting. every single day.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of companies do this of, let's get really excited for today's efforts and, do some jumping jacks and do your mantras or watch the Rocky montage, whatever. But I think as a leader, as a business owner, for yourself and for your team, having that clear vision, longer term vision, like the big thing that we're building towards, it's not going out and closing the next sale. It's going out and putting a freaking dent in the planet, right? Like that is a great way to maintain momentum. I got my pump up playlist, right? I listen to it every Wednesday morning on my drive in.
You need that. It's part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you need to find that motivation in those places like that, because you do need motivation.
Yeah.
But even more effective than motivation is inspiration.
Yeah.
Because that will keep you going. That will keep pushing you. I have been finding a lot of motivation recently too.
Really?
I was driving my kids home yesterday from school, and Jackie and I are failing as parents. Royce has never seen Dumb and Dumber.
What?
Right?
Oh, he would love that movie.
He's also never seen The Goonies. Right? And I don't know if I told you this story, but we listen to Lithium. I listen to Lithium in the car, right? So it's all these 90s, 2000 rock songs. This stuff I listened to when I was in 8th grade or high school. And there's songs that come on with offensive things, and I'm like, oh, he shouldn't be listening to this. I'm like, wait a minute. No. This is exactly what I listened to when I was his age. And back then I used to feel guilt because my parents would hear it. Now I feel guilt because my kids hear it. So anyway, he's never seen Dumb and Dumber. The conversation got off track, and he didn't know who the other actor was in Dumb and Dumber. Not Jim Carrey, the other guy, right? So he was like, is it the guy from School of Rock, Jack Black? No, it's not Jack Black. Penny from the back seat goes, I love the last scene of School of Rock.
Okay.
Like, really? Do you know what the last scene of School of Rock is?
I don't.
Have you seen School of Rock?
Long time ago.
Gotta watch it. Watch it again. I watched it in the last 6 months, and it was like, oh yeah, this is a fantastic movie. The last scene, they get to the Battle of the Bands. I won't share the outcome, but they want an encore. So the band, Jack Black and the kids, get back on the stage. Do you know what song they play?
No.
I didn't know this.
Oh, no.
I completely forgot this. You know what song they play? It's A Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll.
Really?
Oh my God. And for those of you who don't know, that is one of my pump up songs. That should have been the theme of, that should have been the title of today's show.
Yeah.
It's A Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll.
Yep.
So we listened to that song 47 times yesterday.
It's
right?
good.
Oh man, I'm going to pull up the lyrics. So that was kind of cool. So it was kind of inspiring to, I put the phone on my little holder on my dash, and we were listening to the song, and the scene was playing. So yeah, I mean, you definitely need that motivation, and I'm definitely finding a lot of it recently. All right. You ready?
Yep.
Riding down the highway, going to a show, stopping all the byways, playing rock and roll. Sounds great. Mm-hmm. Getting robbed, getting stoned, getting beat up, broken boned, getting had, getting took. I'll tell you folks, it's harder than it looks. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you've got a business and you want to succeed, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. And my mantra on this has been, this has completely changed my perspective. And this is a relatively recent thing for this. I've started telling myself, this is what I signed up for. Mm-hmm. That has completely changed getting punched in the face, breaking my ankle, having the door locks frozen on me, the getting robbed, getting stoned, getting beat up, broken boned. This is what I signed up for. Yeah. This is the price that I have to pay in order to have the thing that I want, in order to have the life that I want, the business that I want, the family that I want. This is what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And I think too many other people, thanks Rocky, think it's easy and it's always uplifting, and the whole city's running behind you, and you get to the top of the steps and you're pumping your fist in the air. It's not. You slipped on one of those steps.
Drinking 12 eggs isn't gross.
Was it 12 eggs?
I'm pretty sure it was 12. It's a whole thing of eggs.
There's a lot of cholesterol in there.
Yeah, not good. And he really did it, by the way. But I think what people and I was listening to one of those motivational things as well, and it was one of those, the getting or developing a relationship with pain, suffering, things that are hard. And it was, we don't want to embrace that. We want to get rid of that as quickly as possible. We don't want those feelings. They're not good. So that's why when things that are painful and hard and suffering comes along, we don't know how to deal with it.
We
want
expect
quit.
it to be easy.
We expect it to be easy.
And part of the reason for that is social media, where all these so-called experts are out there saying, yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
Oh, go 10x your business. It's easy. No, it ain't. All right. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so that's the thing. If you can learn to, like you said, embrace, this is what I signed up for. Embrace getting punched in the face. Embrace, find the good or the solutions in the things that are going wrong. If you can get comfortable with the things that are painful and hard, then it's not so destabilizing, right? It's not so I got to quit. I got to get away from this. It's more like I got to run through this.
Actually,
I need to push harder.
Yes, and then eventually you know what happens. The pain and the suffering that are things that are hard are no longer painful. They no longer cause suffering, and they aren't that hard.
Right.
But oh man, I had a really good note on this. Where did I put it?
Like right now,
Yep.
a gallon of water is painful. Right now, walking 45 minutes in the cold is hard. And I feel like I'm suffering every day. But I'm embracing it, and I understand that at the end of 75 days, I'm going to feel better. And it's going to...
New year, new you.
New year, new me. But the next time I do it, like how many times have you done it now? It's not so hard anymore.
Not at all.
Right?
Yeah, it's actually easy, which is why the other phases exist, because it's like, well, I can't do the same thing over and over and over again,
Right.
because it's actually easy now. All right, so I had notes on this, and I don't know where I put it, but this was... I'll paraphrase a social media post from Andy Frisella, I think yesterday. Discipline, grit, fortitude, self-confidence, self-belief, endurance, self-esteem. All of these are earned skills.
Yeah.
So when we think it's supposed to be easy, when we think it's not supposed to be hard, no, like all of the things that are required. Oh man, this is another great line. I used to read the like legal announcements in the newspaper, right? So you see who died, but they have birth announcements too.
Yep.
And never in the history of Erie, Pennsylvania, this is a Zig Ziglar story that I'm stealing, but never in the history of Erie, Pennsylvania has there been a birth announcement where it said, this person was born with persistence. This person was born with grit or greatness. This person was born with mental toughness.
Right.
Zig Ziglar says, no, there was never a birth announcement that said this person was a born salesman. Like, these are learned skills. You must build this muscle.
Yeah.
But that's where the momentum comes from. You do it over and over and over and over again until you get to the point where that 5-minute cold shower where you're hating every aspect of your life, by the end of a phase where you've done that every day for 30 days, I actually did a cold shower on day 31. Like, not by mistake, but I said, no, I'm going to do it again today, right?
Yeah.
I didn't go 5 minutes. That's ridiculous. But I did 3, right? Still pretty unpleasant. But that's the point, is it's like, all right, now come at me. Like, I've developed my mental toughness to that level where these little things, these minor inconveniences that used to seem catastrophic, that were going to put me out of business, that were going to make me homeless, now it's like, oh, only one of those today?
Yeah.
All right, that was pretty easy, right? So... But the point is, until you go and experience that, and until you go and do it, until you get punched in the face over and over and over again, you're not going to learn this. You're not going to have that strength. It's going to seem more difficult than it really is. And yeah, it is difficult. But it gets easier, not because it gets easier, but because you just get accustomed to dealing with those things. And most people, at the first sign of minor inconvenience, at the first sign of losing a little bit of momentum, at the first sign of somebody saying, I don't believe in you, or you're going to fail, or this isn't going to work, or you shouldn't be doing this, they stop.
Oh, I love how you just said that, because little fun facts here. So humans are very smart, right? But our brains, what we believe, are only the things that we tell ourselves, the things that we hear. We talk about this. What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? Right. Okay. So our brains don't automatically know what is hard unless we are telling ourselves that something is hard. Now, that comes from your subconscious, right? So the times where your subconscious is the most active is right before bed and right in the morning. I believe there's a third time too, but I don't know. Somebody fact check that. But it's most active right before bed and right in the morning. So what you're telling yourself or what you're putting into your mind right before you go to sleep, and the first thing that you're saying to yourself right when you get up, if you're waking up in the morning, the first thing you're saying is, ugh, God, I have to do this today. Oh, this is going to suck. Or this is going to be hard. Your brain, everything that you encounter that day, it's going to be hard because that's what you've told it. So if you're waking up every day saying that, or you're going to bed every night being like, well, this sucked. This day, this was awful. Everything that happened, I can't do this another day. I can't go into work another day and have to deal with these problems. Then that is what's going to happen. So it's honestly, we don't know what's hard or what we can't do unless we're telling ourselves that. It's not that things are actually so difficult. It's not that things are actually so impossible to do. So it's like, again, right, it comes to everything about it's your mindset.
So, well, mindset is step one.
Yeah.
Step one is telling yourself you can do it. Telling yourself you are capable of doing it.
Yes. And shutting out the noise of people that say you can't.
And then step two is going out and doing it.
The action.
I want to swear so bad right now. But
I know.
That's where people miss. Is that go on, do the damn thing. All right. That's where it's like, all right, I can do this, and then go out and do it.
Yeah.
To prove to yourself, to prove to your subconscious that you can in fact do it.
Yes.
And in fact, you may say, I can do this, and then you may go out and try it, and it may not work. So you got to go and do it again, and again, and again, and again. Yeah. And that's it. You ready for some more lyrics?
Yes.
This is another sign of the downfall of society. Brought to you, God, I hope Jackie's listening. Brought to you by Wilson Phillips.
Woo! Yes.
I know there's pain. Why do you lock yourself up in these chains? No one can change your life except for you. Don't ever let anyone step all over you. Just open your heart and your mind. Is it really fair to feel this way inside? Oh,
I know she's singing
someday
right now.
somebody's going to make you want to turn around and say goodbye. Until then, baby, are you going to let him hold you down and make you cry? Don't you know? Don't you know? Things are going to change. Yeah. Things will go your way. Things will go your way if you hold on for one more day. I'm here to tell you it may not be only one more day.
Yeah.
It may be 2 days. It may be a week.
Maybe a month.
It may be 3 months. It may be 5 years.
Yes.
And if you want a successful business, you're not going to do it in 6 months.
Yeah.
Unless you've done it before, or unless you get really, really, really lucky. It's not an overnight thing. I think that's the most important lesson that I want to convey today. Is that the Rocky montage, where they keep out all the miserable parts and don't show how long it took or how hard it really was. Like, yeah, he does 47 one-arm push-ups. That's super impressive, but that doesn't happen in the span of a montage.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take you to do one-armed push-up?
Yeah.
And then 2, and then 3. I did this, gosh, it's probably been 2 years now, but I went and figured out how many push-ups I could do. I think it was 25. And I decided every day it was 20. I decided every day I was going to add one more. So the next day I did 21, next day I did 22. So by the end of 30 days, I could do 50 push-ups, which is pretty cool, right?
Do you think that some of that is like the rules that society has, like by this age you're supposed to be here, and if you own a business by this many years you're supposed to be here,
fair.
and by this here, and wasn't it the Kentucky Fried Chicken guy? He was like in his 80s before he actually became. So do you think like getting rid of those beliefs that you have to be at a certain point or things have to happen within a certain time frame for you to actually?
I think there's that. I think social media makes it a million times worse because people believe that overnight success is a thing. Mm-hmm. It's not. It is not. Yeah. Our business that tripled from Q3 to Q4, that seems really fast. You want to know why that happened? Because of what I did for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
15 years of learning and studying and getting punched on the face and laying on the side of the road while it's raining and snowing and a car drives by and splashes water in my face and looking up at the sky and saying, well, I got to stand back up now.
Yeah.
And go and doing it again.
Yep.
That's the secret to overnight success.
Yeah.
And people are completely clueless about it. Like they have no idea that that's what it actually takes until they go out and do it. And there's a million examples from business. There's a million examples from sports. I'm not a huge basketball guy, and I don't think there's any conversation around who the greatest of all time is. It's Michael Jordan. But I like hearing stories about Kobe because, Black Mamba, he was a bad dude.
Yes.
And there's some video of another basketball player talking about going in the gym and warming up. And he knew, and this, I don't know this guy's name, right? Like, he may have been good, he may have been popular, but he's not popular enough for me to know.
But everybody knows, we've talked about this with the story of Michael Jordan and even Kobe. They weren't overnight successes. In fact, Michael Jordan was never the top pick through high school and even college. Like, that took years for him to become Michael Jordan.
But I mean, Kobe was a prodigy, right? People knew him in high school. He went straight to the draft.
Yes.
If he wasn't the first, he was one of the first to do that. But
he had setbacks and struggles. He didn't he had to work hard to continue to be as good as he was.
But what you see about those guys is the pictures of them holding the trophies, right? The MVP awards, the national championship rings, whatever it is. What you don't see enough of is like this guy telling the story of, he went in the gym one morning and it was like a warm up before the game, right? And he decided he was going to stay later than Kobe. And like the rest of the team left, and he and Kobe are still out there shooting and still shooting and still shooting. And the guy finally said, screw it. Like, I got to go shower before the game, right? Kobe stays out there, right? The next day they go back for warm ups. Kobe's the first one there. And this guy sees it. He's like, man, all right, I'm staying later than Kobe today. So the rest of the team leaves, and they're still out there shooting and shooting. Finally, the guy walks up to Kobe, and he's like, dude, what are you doing? You're Kobe Bryant. Yeah. And he's like, well, I saw how late you were here yesterday, and I wasn't going to let it happen again. Like, I was going to be the one here later than you. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. When the cleaning crew is coming through and shutting off the lights, and they've killed the heat in the building, you got to be the one out there on the court still practicing your free throws.
Yeah.
And in business, when you're out there practicing those free throws, somebody's going to come out of nowhere and goaltend and smack it right back into your face, right? But we don't see enough of that. We don't talk about that enough. And we're like you said, we have these artificial deadlines and milestones in our lives of where we should be. Well, I should be at $1 million in revenue by the end of this year. Great if you are, but if you're not, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
If you get to December 31st and you haven't hit that goal, or maybe even better, you find out February 1st that you're not on pace, or June 1st that you're not on pace, what are you going to do with it? Yeah. And a lot of people are going to say, well, I can't do it. The successful people are going to keep pushing. And they're going to say, you know what, I didn't get there by December 31st, but I'm going to get there.
Right.
Right? I don't think that if Michael Jordan lost in the NBA Finals, he would have retired that year.
Right.
He had to wait until he won. Yeah. And he says, peace, I'm out, right?
Yep.
That's another great documentary. What was that one called?
The Last Dance?
Last Dance.
Yeah,
great
that was a good one.
I think I've watched that 3 times.
I know. That never gets old.
All right, what else you got? Anything?
All right. Well, I guess tell us, as we're getting toward the end, what are some action items that people can do going forward? And what are some of the things that can be avoided? What are the biggest things that can be avoided to not lose momentum? Or again, you might have momentum and there's a roadblock or something happens to not quit.
All right. First one, you were talking about those days where you just say, oh, it was so hard, it was so difficult, right? And then you go to sleep with that in your head, and you're going to dream about driving your car off the cliff. Changing that. Get out of the victim mindset, right? And I sound really alpha male saying that, but get out of that victim mindset. If you need the coachy coach version of this, the book is called The Power of TED, which is the empowerment dynamic, and you go from from victim to victor, or coach and creator. Anyway, read the book. It's a good book.
It's a short read, but it's amazing.
I don't like the book because it's a parable.
Oh yeah, you said that.
But then the like all these books, right? The last part of the book is like where they just explain the framework. I like that part of it. So flipping the framework to it's happening for me, not it's happening to me.
Yes.
We've all got this victim mindset of it's happening to me, and that's going to keep you stuck.
Yep.
The second thing, common denominator of success. Successful people make a habit of doing things that unsuccessful people don't like to do. Make a habit of doing things that unsuccessful people don't like to do. So you develop a relationship with things that are painful and hard, where most people try to avoid things that are painful and hard. And if you do that for long enough, and if you stick with it long enough, eventually you aren't running up the steps of the museum on your own. You've got the whole city running behind you saying, I knew you could do it all along. They didn't. They never believed in you. They always doubted you, and you've got to go out and prove them wrong. And I believe in you.
Yes.